I want to start today with a little check-in on your morning.
Yeah.
Not the part where you drink your lemon water and do your stretches. I mean, the real routine. The one where you wake up, your eyes aren't even fully focused yet, and you grab your phone,
Oh, that one. The scroll.
the scroll, and it's like within 30 seconds, your stomach just
Right.
drops.
Yep.
You see a headline about, I don't know, a heat dome somewhere. It shouldn't be.
Right.
Then a story about political polarization that feels less like a debate and more like a quiet war.
Mm-hmm.
And then, economic instability, some new virus, supply chains are a mess.
And it's not even 8 a.m.
Exactly. And there's just this overwhelming feeling of everything is crazy right now. It's not just bad news. It feels structural.
It does. It feels like the floor is shaking. That's a great way to put it. It's sort of the background radiation of our lives now, this constant hum of anxiety
Yeah.
that just doesn't go away.
Right. And it feels like stories we used to tell ourselves about how the world works,
Yeah,
they're just dissolving in real time.
they are.
And what's so fascinating and honestly a little terrifying is seeing how people are reacting to that.
The coping mechanisms.
Yeah. I mean, on one end, you've got tech billionaires literally building rockets to leave the planet. They think Earth is a write-off.
Just, we're out of here.
And then on the other end, you have like normal suburban families in Ohio who are quietly buying bunkers in New Zealand or, stocking up on military-grade rations in the basement.
Everyone is bracing for impact.
Everyone.
It's a collective, global brace for impact. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're going to unpack the why, the mechanics behind that anxiety, and more importantly, why that very reaction bracing for impact might actually be making the collision inevitable.
Okay, so what's our source material for this?
We are unpacking a book that I honestly believe is one of the most important reads for this exact moment. It's called Recapture the Rapture: Rethinking God, Sex, and Death in a World That's Lost Its Mind. And it's by Jamie Wheal.
And I got to tell you, this book it's a lot. It's not a light read.
Right.
It's dense. It's one part philosophy, one part neuroscience, another part cultural critique, and then it's also like a user's manual for your own nervous system.
It's incredibly ambitious. Wheal is trying to answer the biggest question there is, right? How do we find meaning? How do we find stability when all the old stories have just completely fallen apart?
And how do we do that without, falling into a cult or just deciding to check out of reality entirely?
Exactly.
So our mission for this deep dive is, it's pretty big. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
You do.
We're going to break down what Wheal calls the meaning crisis. That's why we all feel so lost.
Uh-huh.
We're going to look at these dangerous rapture ideologies that are rushing in to fill that vacuum. And spoiler alert for you listening, it's not just about religion. We're going to end up talking about Elon Musk and ISIS in the same breath, which is a choice.
It's a necessary choice, as we'll see. The logic is surprisingly similar.
And this is the part I'm really excited about. We're going to get practical. We're getting into the Alchemist Cookbook.
Yes.
How to actually use your breath, your body, even your sexuality to heal and get back online as a functional human.
It's a guide to recapturing that feeling of being alive, what he calls the rapture, without having to wait for the world to end.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, the foundation. Why does it feel like the floor is falling out from under us? Wheal talks about the collapse of meaning 1.0 and meaning 2.0. Can you unpack meaning 1.0 for us first?
Absolutely. This is the whole thesis of the book, really. To understand why we're so anxious, we have to understand what we've lost. So, for most of human history, let's say up until the Enlightenment, the Western world ran on meaning 1.0.
Which is basically organized religion.
Organized religion, the church, the cathedral, the temple, and the deal, the social contract of meaning 1.0 was very, very specific.
What was the deal?
It offered you salvation, but it was exclusive. It was salvation for the elect.
Ah, so only for members of the club.
Precisely. If you followed the rules, if you were baptized, if you believed the specific dogma of your tribe, you were saved. You had a cosmic purpose. You had a place in the universe.
And if you didn't...
Oh, then you were damned. You were out. He calls it harsh but fair.
Harsh but fair. I like that.
Hmm.
It's brutal, but at least you know the rules. You knew where you stood. You weren't waking up every morning with this crushing existential dread of, who am I and what's the point? The church told you the point.
It told you everything. It was a container for suffering. If your child died, if your crops failed, it was tragic, but it was part of God's plan. There was a story for it.
But then that container started to crack.
It cracked and then it shattered. You have the Enlightenment, the scientific revolution, the rise of secularism. The old story just stopped being convincing for a huge part of the population.
So we threw out meaning 1.0.
Mm.
and we replaced it with meaning 2.0. This is what we call modernity, liberalism.
And we should be really clear when we say liberal, we don't mean it in the political left-right sense.
Right, not Democrat versus Republican.
No, we mean the classical liberal order, the whole philosophical project of the last 300 years or so.
So democracy, free markets, individual rights, technology, capitalism, that whole package.
That's the one. And meaning 2.0 had a new promise. It replaced salvation for the elect with a new motto: inclusion for the masses.
That was the dream, right? The American dream.
Yeah.
The idea that if we just keep innovating, build better iPhones, hold free elections, and keep that GDP graph going up and to the right.
Then eventually everyone gets a fair shot. Everyone gets a piece of the pie. We don't need to wait for heaven in the afterlife. We can build a pretty good version of it right here on Earth.
Science will cure our diseases, the market will cure our poverty, and democracy will give us freedom. That was the pitch.
It was an amazing pitch. It worked for a long time, but
I'm looking around right now, and I'm seeing a lot of people who feel like that check bounced hard.
that is the collapse. That's the moment we are in right now. We are living through the failure of the promise of commodement, meaning 2.0.
How so?
Well, the inclusion for the masses part turned out to be not so true. We have economic inequality on a scale we haven't seen in a century.
Right.
We have environmental degradation that's threatening the very foundation of the global market.
And we have a loneliness and mental health crisis that suggests all the stuff and all the freedom didn't actually make us happy.
So, to recap, meaning 1.0, religion, it collapses because of science and skepticism. And now, meaning 2.0, modern society, is collapsing because it just failed to deliver on its own promises.
So we're stuck. We're in the gap between stories.
We are in the void, and that is a psychologically dangerous place for a society to be. Wheal brings in Nietzsche here.
God is dead.
God is dead. And people always think Nietzsche was, like, celebrating when he wrote that triumphant declaration.
But he wasn't, was he?
He was terrified.
Yeah.
He was sounding an alarm. He was saying, look, if you pull the foundation of God out from under Western civilization and you don't have something equally strong to replace it with, the whole building is going to come down.
And he predicted this would lead to something he called anomie.
Yes, it's a sociological term. It just means normlessness.
That feeling of being unmoored, lost at sea with no map and no stars.
Exactly. The social psychologist Jonathan Haidt talks about this too. He says, we have a God-shaped hole in our hearts. Humans, we're biological beings, but we seem to have this biological need for the sacred, for connection, for a story that makes sense of the suffering and the beauty.
And if you just empty that out, if you have a society with no shared God and now no shared belief in the American dream either.
You get what we have now: loneliness, despair, hopelessness, and a desperate search for a new story.
And physics teaches us that nature abhors a vacuum. So if there is the meaning vacuum in the human heart, it won't stay empty for long.
Something will always rush in to fill it.
And that something is what Jamie Wheal calls rapture ideologies.
Precisely.
Okay, let's get into this. Because when I hear the word rapture, my mind immediately goes to the Left Behind books from the 90s.
Kirk Cameron, yes.
People's clothes just left in a neat pile on the airplane seat while their souls float up to heaven. But Wheal is saying, this is a much bigger idea. This is a mental framework that even, like, hardcore atheists are falling into.
Yes. It is much, much broader than just religion. He argues that because we are in this meaning crisis, we are starving for any story that tells us how it all ends. We crave certainty in an uncertain world.
So a rapture ideology is any belief system, religious or secular, that follows a very specific four-part framework.
Right, and you should listen closely to this, because once you see this framework, you will start seeing it absolutely everywhere.
Okay, I'm ready. I want to walk through this framework slowly. Point 1.
Point 1. The world is broken and unsavable.
Okay, so this is the starting point. Everything is doomed. It doesn't matter if it's because of original sin and human wickedness, or if it's because of carbon emissions and late-stage capitalism.
The diagnosis is identical. The current system is toast. It cannot be fixed. It can only be scrapped and replaced.
All right, point 2.
Point 2. A major inflection point is coming very soon.
The big event.
The big event. The second coming. Judgment Day. In the tech world, it might be the singularity or the climate tipping point. But the key is the urgency. It's not in 1,000 years. It's happening now, in our lifetimes.
Got it. Point 3.
Point 3. After this great change, our people will be saved or redeemed.
Ah, the tribal part. We get to go to heaven, or we get to go on the spaceship to the Mars colony. We who bought the right crypto, we who hold the right political opinion.
While they, the others, the unbelievers, get left behind to suffer.
And that leads to point 4, which feels like the most dangerous one.
It is the most dangerous one. Therefore, let's get to the end as fast as possible, and let's just ignore the collateral damage along the way.
That's the kicker. If you truly believe the world is unsavable, point 1, and you believe you have a golden ticket out, point 3, then you stop trying to fix things down here.
You don't just stop fixing the bridge. You might start taking a sledgehammer to it because you think you're about to grow wings and fly over the canyon anyway. You want to accelerate the collapse to get to the good part faster.
So Wheal applies this framework to 2 groups that, on the surface, seem like they couldn't be more different. Religious fundamentalists and the techno-utopians of Silicon Valley.
Right.
Let's start with the fundamentalists.
Yeah.
He draws this parallel between Christian Zionists and ISIS, that is. I mean, it's pretty intense.
It's what he calls the intertwingularity, which is just a fantastic word.
Intertwingularity.
It's how these seemingly opposite narratives get tangled up together. I mean, look, on the surface, a Christian Zionist in Texas and an ISIS fighter in Syria are mortal enemies. They would shoot each other on sight.
Of course.
But if you look at their game engine, the underlying narrative software running in their brains, it is identical.
Okay, you have to explain that. How is the software the same?
Both groups are actively trying to bring about the end times. They are stagehands in a pre-written apocalypse script.
Give me an example.
Okay, so many Christian Zionists have, for decades, pushed for things like moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Now, they might say it's for geopolitical reasons, but the theological reason is that they believe a unified Jerusalem under Jewish control is a key prophecy that must be fulfilled before Jesus can return.
So they're trying to force God's hand, setting the stage for the second coming.
Exactly. And at the same time, halfway across the world, ISIS is operating on its own very specific 7th century prophecy.
Which is what?
They believe they need to lure the armies of Rome, which they interpret as the West, to a final battle in a specific town in Syria called Dabiq. They even named their magazine Dabiq.
Okay.
They believe that once this battle starts, a figure called the Dajjal, the anti-Messiah, will appear. And then, and this is the wild part, Jesus, who they call Isa, will descend from the heavens and kill the anti-Messiah with a spear.
Wait. ISIS is waiting for Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Islamic eschatology, Jesus is a major prophet and a key figure in the end-time story. He comes back to defeat the great evil.
My mind's a little bit blown right now.
And here's the deeply dark irony that Wheal points out. Both sides, the Christian Zionists and ISIS, believe that at the very last second, when the sky cracks open and the trumpets sound, the other side will see the light and convert.
So they're both racing towards this apocalyptic conflict, fully expecting the other side to just flip at the last minute.
When in reality, they're just accelerating a war that could kill millions. They're both accelerationists. They want to burn the whole house down because they think they're fireproof and a mansion is waiting for them on the other side.
That's chilling. And it's a perfect example of a finite game. The goal is to end the game.
The ultimate finite game.
Okay, so that's the religious side.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people listening probably aren't in that camp. But the other side of this coin, the techno-utopian rapture, this is where he starts calling out the Silicon Valley mindset. People like Elon Musk, Ray Kurzweil, even Stephen Hawking. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. I love space exploration. I think rockets are amazing. Why is wanting to go to Mars a rapture ideology? Isn't that just, a good insurance policy backing up the hard drive of humanity?
And that's a totally fair question. Wheal is not saying technology is bad or that going to space is inherently wrong. He's critiquing the motivation behind it and the ethical logic it creates when it becomes an escape fantasy.
So it's about the why.
It's all about the why. Just look at the rhetoric. Musk has said over and over, we need to be a multiplanetary species because Earth is becoming too dangerous. Stephen Hawking's final message was that spreading out is the only thing that will save us from ourselves.
But isn't that kind of true? I mean, the dinosaurs didn't have a space program, and look what happened to them.
It is true that we are vulnerable to existential risks. No one disputes that. But just apply the rapture framework again.
Okay, let's do it.
Step 1, the world is broken, Earth is doomed. Climate change, AI risk, nuclear war, pandemics. Check. Step 2, an inflection point is coming soon. The climate is hitting a tipping point. AI is about to go exponential. Check.
Check.
Step 3, our people will be saved. The best and the brightest, or at least the richest, will get to go to the Mars colony. Check.
And step 4, therefore, let's focus our resources on the escape hatch. instead of trying to fix the ship we're all on.
And there it is. It's that's the core of the problem.
Right.
It's what Wheal calls the good ship lollipop problem.
The good ship lollipop. Okay, you got to break that one down for me.
Think about it. There are 8 billion of us on this planet. Even with the most optimistic projections for Starship, even if we build a fleet of 1,000 of them working around the clock, we cannot move 8 billion people to Mars.
Not even close.
We can't even move a fraction of 1%. So this whole ideology relies on a collective, unspoken fantasy. We all secretly believe that we're the special ones who are going to get a ticket.
Right. I'm not going to be the guy left behind treading water in a flooded Miami. I'm going to be the one sipping a protein shake in a dome on Mars because I was smart enough to listen to the right podcasts or buy the right stock.
But the reality is, if that terrible scenario ever played out, it wouldn't look like Star Trek. It would look like the fall of Saigon, desperate people clinging to the landing gear of the last helicopter out.
Wow.
And so, ethically, it justifies abandoning the only planet we are perfectly adapted for, the only place in the entire known universe that can support us without life support. All for a hostile, irradiated desert, because we've given up on solving our problems here at home.
It's an abdication of responsibility, but it's disguised as visionary futurism.
Exactly. It's the ultimate finite game, just with rockets instead of religion.
That is heavy. It completely reframes the billionaire space race. It's not just exploration. It's an exit strategy for the 0.00001%.
And for the rest of us who can't afford a ticket on that rocket, there's the other side of the coin.
Doomsday Preppers.
The bunker in the backyard.
He brings up that show on National Geographic, Doomsday Preppers. That show was a huge hit.
Massive. And the statistics he cites are just staggering. He mentions a survey where nearly half of Americans, I think the number was somewhere between 40 and 50%, said they believe investing in a bomb shelter and MREs,
meals ready to eat,
is a safer financial bet for their future than a 401k.
That is an absolutely wild statistic. Just think for a second about what that reveals about our collective psychology.
It's a massive vote of no confidence.
It means we have fundamentally lost faith in the future. We don't believe the system, meaning 2.0 is going to be there for us when we retire. We'd rather bet on a hole in the ground and some canned goods than the stock market.
And this brings us to a really crucial distinction that Wheal makes. He says we're all suffering from a condition he calls eschatologia.
Yes, eschatologia. Okay, practice saying that one. Break down the Greek for us.
It's a mouthful. So eschaton means the end, or the last things, and thesia means a feeling or a position. So it's that pervasive feeling that a huge event is coming. A fundamental shift in the timeline is upon us.
We all feel that. That's the anxiety we started with.
Right. But the problem is we confuse apocalypse with Armageddon.
Okay, unpack that.
Okay.
Because in every disaster movie I've ever seen, those two words mean the exact same thing.
They do in pop culture. Boom, explosions, the world ends, credits roll.
Right.
But if you go back to the original Greek root of apocalypse, apocalypsis, it doesn't mean destruction at all. It means an unveiling.
An unveiling.
Or a revealing, like pulling a curtain back on a stage. It's the moment you finally see the truth of a situation, the parts that were hidden.
Whereas Armageddon refers to the final world-ending battle, the game over.
Exactly. So you could argue we are in an apocalypse right now. The pandemic, the climate data, the political unrest, these are all unveilings. They are revealing the deep cracks and the hidden truths about our fragile systems.
But we're reacting as if it's Armageddon.
We are. And Wheal's core argument here is that our goal should be to hasten the apocalypse. We should want the truth to be revealed as quickly as possible so we can deal with reality, but we must do everything in our power to delay Armageddon.
And the rapture ideologies do the opposite. They rush toward Armageddon because they think the fire is a cleansing agent that will bring about their paradise.
Precisely, which leads perfectly into this idea of finite versus infinite games. This comes from the philosopher James Carse, right?
Yes, from his classic book, Finite and Infinite Games. The distinction is so simple, but it's incredibly profound.
A finite game is played for the purpose of winning. It has a beginning, a middle, and a clear end.
Baseball is a finite game. An election is a finite game. A war is usually treated as a finite game.
Right. And in a finite game, there are winners and there are losers. It's zero sum. If my team wins, your team has to lose.
And Rapture, whether it's religious or technological, is the ultimate finite game. My tribe gets saved, your tribe burns. Game over. We won.
The problem is, human civilization is not a finite game. Or at least, it shouldn't be. It's an infinite game.
And the goal of an infinite game
is not to win. The goal is to keep playing, to keep the game going for as long as possible, and to bring as many new players into the game as you can.
Wheal uses this amazing visual contrast, the idea of the man on the moon versus the Earthrise photo.
It's such a perfect metaphor. The man on the moon moment, planting the flag, that was a finite game victory. We beat the Soviets, we claimed the rock, we won the space race.
Right, us versus them.
But Earthrise, that stunning photograph taken by the Apollo 8 astronauts, that little blue marble hanging in the infinite blackness.
That's the infinite game.
That's the infinite game. That photo changed everything. It showed us, for the first time, one single, fragile, interconnected system. There's no us and them in that picture. It's just us.
It's like that Benjamin Franklin quote. We must all hang together, or most assuredly, we shall all hang separately.
That is the motto of the infinite game. Because if we keep playing these finite, tribal games with infinite-level technologies like nuclear weapons and climate change, the game ends. For everyone.
Okay, so that's the diagnosis. And it is. It's a bleak one. We've lost our meaning. We're obsessed with doomsday scenarios. We're playing the wrong game.
It's a heavy diagnosis.
But now we have to talk about the solutions.
Yeah.
And this is where the book takes a really sharp turn. Because usually a book like this would end with some policy proposals or just, be nicer to each other.
Right.
But Wheal goes, weird, he goes into what he calls the alchemist's cookbook.
He does. And this is the pivot from what is wrong with the world to what can you, the individual, actually do about it. And his answer is surprisingly physical. It's biological.
The idea is that we can't just think our way out of this anxiety. Our nervous systems are completely fried. We're in a constant state of fight or flight. So we need to reclaim our own biology first.
We have to work from the bottom up. He talks about this in terms of human-centered design. If religion, meaning 1.0, gave people these three crucial things, ecstasis, a sense of awe and wonder,
Catharsis, a way to heal emotional wounds.
and communitas, a deep sense of community and belonging.
And the church is gone for many of us, then we have to figure out how to engineer those states for ourselves.
We have to reverse engineer revelation. We need reliable, non-dogmatic tools to get there.
Okay, let's get into the cookbook. Tool number 1. It's something we all do about 20,000 times a day, mostly without thinking, breathing.
But he's not talking about the take a deep breath and count to 10 advice you get from a wellness app.
No. He goes deep into the biochemistry of it all.
He does. And this is where we have to correct a huge misconception that most of us have about breathing. We think it's all about getting oxygen, O2 in. We think oxygen is the good guy and carbon dioxide, CO2, is the bad guy, the waste product.
Get the bad air out, get the good air in.
Sure.
Simple.
It's not that simple. Physiologically, that's completely wrong. It turns out you desperately need CO2 to actually use the oxygen you breathe in. It's a principle called the Bohr effect.
Okay, I want to really nail this down because this was a mind blower for me in the book. Explain the Bohr effect like I'm 5.
Okay. Imagine your red blood cells are little delivery trucks driving around in your bloodstream.
Got it.
And these trucks are all loaded up with boxes of oxygen. They drive up to your brain cells, which are desperate for that oxygen to make energy. But the red blood cells have a very strict doorman. That doorman is a molecule called hemoglobin.
And hemoglobin holds on to the oxygen.
It holds on for dear life.
Yeah.
The only thing that convinces the doorman to open up the truck and unload the oxygen into your brain cells is the presence of carbon dioxide.
So CO2 is the key that unlocks the oxygen delivery truck.
It is the golden key. Without enough CO2 in your tissues, the doorman won't open the door. So if you're stressed, you're anxious, you're taking short, shallow breaths, you are constantly hyperventilating, you're blowing off all your CO2.
You're exhaling the key.
You are exhaling the key. So your blood can be saturated with oxygen, the trucks are full, but it's not getting delivered. You are literally suffocating your brain and body tissues while having lungs full of air.
That explains so much. It's why during a panic attack, it feels like you can't breathe. You were breathing, you're just not getting the benefit.
Precisely. So Wheal introduces these protocols for high-performance respiration. It's all about training your body to tolerate higher levels of CO2 to become more efficient.
And he brings up this fascinating historical figure, a psychiatrist named Ladislas Meduna.
Meduna was a pioneer back in the 1940s. He figured out that he could induce profound shifts in consciousness just by changing the mix of gases people breathed. He created something called Meduna's mixture.
Which was what?
It was basically a blend of oxygen and carbon dioxide, a gas called carbogen.
And this wasn't for, asthma. This was a form of therapy.
It was a form of deep psychological resetting. When his patients would breathe this carbogen mixture, they would enter these non-ordinary states. They would have mystical type experiences. They would relive and release traumatic memories. And it was just air. It wasn't LSD. It was just a different ratio of gas.
Yeah. So how do we apply that today? I mean, we're not going to carry around tanks of carbogen.
You can mimic the effects with specific breathwork protocols. Wheal talks about combining periods of superventilation breathing really fast to load up on oxygen, followed by extended breath holds.
And the breath hold is what lets the CO2 build up.
Right. And when you do this in a rhythmic, intentional way, you are literally toggling your own nervous system. You are shifting from the sympathetic fight or flight state to the parasympathetic rest and digest state. You can change your brainwaves from stressed out beta to calm and creative alpha or theta.
He talks about it as stepping out of Chronos time.
Which is linear, clock time, tick-tock, deadlines, anxiety.
And into Kairos time.
The deep now. That timeless state of flow where creativity and healing happen. And the most beautiful part is that this tool is free. It's built into your body. You don't need a guru or a dealer to access it. It's open source salvation.
Okay, so that's tool 1. That leads it to tool number 2. Embodiment and transforming suffering. This gets at the problem that so many of us are, as he puts it, disembodied heads on sticks. We live in our screens, in our thoughts, and we basically ignore our bodies until they scream at us with pain or illness.
And the fundamental problem with that is that trauma lives in the body. You can't just think your way out of trauma. You can't talk it out. Always. You have to feel it to heal it. You have to move it through your system.
And he tells this incredibly powerful story to illustrate this, the story of the 9/11 first responders.
Yeah, that story's it's unforgettable. He talks about a program that worked with these guys, firefighters, cops, construction workers, these tough, stoic individuals who were just completely wrecked by what they experienced at Ground Zero.
Not just psychologically, but biologically.
Right. They had extreme PTSD, survivor's guilt, but they also had like jet fuel and heavy metals and pulverized concrete in their tissues. Their bodies were toxic, and traditional talk therapy wasn't touching it.
Because the trauma wasn't just a memory, it was cellular.
It was cellular. So this program put them through a protocol that involved extreme physical sensation. Long sessions in high heat saunas, followed by ice baths, followed by intense physical exercise.
It's about using that physical intensity to basically break the spell of numbness.
Precisely. The shock to the system forces the body to start dumping the stored toxins and the stored emotional stress. It forces you back into the present moment in your body because you cannot ignore 200-degree heat or 33-degree water.
And he connects this idea of physical resilience to a mental or spiritual practice, the Tibetan practice of Tonglen. Now, I have to admit, when I first read about Tonglen, my immediate gut reaction was, absolutely not. No, thank you.
Well, it is the exact opposite of everything our culture teaches us.
All right, our culture is good vibes only. Manifest positivity. Block the haters, ignore the bad news.
Yeah.
But Tonglen says, do the opposite.
Do the complete opposite. Tonglen is a meditation practice, and in it, you intentionally visualize suffering. You breathe in the pain.
You breathe it in.
You visualize it as like hot, black, greasy smoke or tar, and you breathe in your own pain, your friend's pain, the pain of your enemies, the pain of the whole world. You pull it right into the center of your heart.
That sounds like a recipe for a major depressive episode. Why on earth would I do that?
Because that's only step 1. Step 2 is that you use your heart as an alchemical furnace. You let that pain break your heart open. And then on the exhale, you breathe out cool, white, healing light. You breathe out peace and relief and compassion to all those same people.
So instead of building a wall against the pain, you're acting as a transformer, a filtration system.
Exactly. Wheal quotes the author Alice Walker, who said something like, "My heart has been broken so many times it just swings open wide now, like a suitcase." The insight here is that if you try to block out all the world's suffering, you just become brittle and isolated. But if you learn to let it flow through you, if you learn to metabolize it, you become incredibly resilient and compassionate. It's the ultimate realization that the only way out is through.
Okay, that's a powerful reframe. Instead of being a victim of the world's pain, you become an active participant in transforming it.
And that leads right into the third tool, which is where things get really, really interesting: hedonic engineering.
Build-A-Buzz bingo. I love the chart for this in the book. It's so practical. The basic idea is that we can actually map out different states of consciousness and learn how to get there intentionally. We don't have to just stumble into them.
He calls it the flow genome matrix, and he basically maps the shift from our typical 21st century state, which he calls tired, wired, and stressed, over to the optimal state of being the homegrown human.
And the way to get there is by learning to turn the biological knobs and dials in your own brain.
It's like having a cockpit for your own consciousness. You've got dials for different neurochemicals, nitric oxide, oxytocin, endorphins, anandamide.
So let's look at some of those dials. Nitric oxide, what does that do?
It's a vasodilator. It regulates blood flow and alertness. And you can get a quick boost of it by humming. The vibration in your nasal cavities produces it, or by eating beets.
Okay, simple enough. What about oxytocin?
That's the cuddle hormone, the feeling of safety and connection. You can dial that up with simple things like sustained eye gazing with a partner, safe physical touch, or even just petting your dog.
And endorphins, that's the body's natural painkiller.
Right. You get that from things like high-intensity interval training, spicy food, or plunging into cold water.
So the idea is, if I'm feeling disconnected and sluggish, I don't just have to wallow in it. I can look at the dashboard and say, okay, my system needs an oxytocin and endorphin boost. And I can prescribe myself a tough workout followed by a long hug.
You're taking radical agency over your own state of being. And he doesn't shy away from what is arguably the most powerful tool for state change that we have. Sexuality. But what he calls the sexual yoga of becoming.
And we have to be really clear here. This is not just having more sex is good for you.
Not at all. He's trying to reclaim sexuality from the two small boxes we usually cram it into. Box 1 is recreation. It's just for fun and release. Box 2 is reproduction. It's for making babies.
Yeah, he argues for a third box. Recreation.
Recreation, using that incredible energy to literally recreate your nervous system, to heal, and to bond deeply with a partner.
He talks about the horned ape versus the stoned ape. The stoned ape theory from Terence McKenna is that psychedelic mushrooms kick-started human consciousness. What's the horned ape?
The horned ape theory is Wheal's complement to that. He suggests that the unique, intense, face-to-face pair bonding and sexuality of early humans might have been just as psychoactive and transformative for our evolution as any external substance.
And there's actual data on this, right?
Yes. He cites a pilot study where couples were taught to use these intentional intimacy practices, slowing way down, syncing their breathing, maintaining eye contact. The results were a massive drop in the stress hormone cortisol and a huge spike in reported flow states. It turned their relationship into a sanctuary from the crazy world.
Okay. So we have the tools from the Alchemist's Cookbook. We can use our breath to reset our nervous system. We can use our bodies to process trauma. We can engineer our own neurochemistry with things like exercise and connection.
We have the tools.
And there's always a big but in this book. This is really dangerous territory.
Extremely dangerous.
Because if you give people these powerful tools to access states of ecstasy and connection, you make them very open, very vulnerable.
And when people are that open, they become incredibly suggestible.
And this is how cults start.
This is exactly how cults start. Which brings us to part 3. Ethical cult building. How to play with this fire without getting burned. Or, without starting a cult that burns everyone else.
Because history is just littered with groups that started with peace and love and ended with, well, cyanide and Kool-Aid, or NXIVM, or the Rajneeshis.
Right. Wheal introduces a key term here for the specific risk involved. It's antinomianism.
Break it down.
Anti means against. Nomos means law, so it's being against the law. When you have a peak experience, when you use breath work to feel one with the universe, you often come back to ordinary reality feeling like the normal rules don't apply to you anymore.
You feel like, I've seen the ultimate truth. I don't have to stop at red lights or pay my taxes or respect your boundaries because I'm enlightened now.
It's a huge spiritual ego trap. And it's the perfect vulnerability for a charismatic leader to exploit. They step in and say, you're right, the old rules don't apply, but I am the new rule, just listen to me.
The golden shadow. We project all our hopes for a perfect parent or a savior onto this one leader.
And that's the track. So Wheal gives us 3 massive, unmissable red flags for spotting a bad cult. If you're exploring any of these communities, you need to have these memorized.
Okay, red flag number 1.
Infallibility.
Meaning the leader can never be wrong.
Exactly. If the leader cannot be questioned, if they claim to be fully enlightened and say that your questions are just a sign of your own ignorance or your ego, run, especially if their higher logic always seems to involve them getting your money or sleeping with your partner.
A real teacher wants you to outgrow them, not worship them forever.
1,000%.
Okay, red flag number 2.
State priming.
This one's a little more subtle.
It's insidious. This is when a group intentionally keeps you in an altered state all the time, through sleep deprivation, through constant chanting or dancing, through substances. If they never let you come down and integrate, it's because they don't want you to think clearly.
They want you to lose your critical faculties.
A healthy group gives you peak experiences and then helps you integrate them back into your normal life. A cult just keeps you spinning so you stay compliant.
Don't think, just feel. Surrender.
Exactly. Which leads right into red flag number 3, anti-intellectualism.
The old get out of your head line.
Which can be good advice in a meditation class. But if it's being used to shut down legitimate questions about the group's finances or ethics or the leader's behavior, then it's just a thought-stopping cliche. You're overthinking it is often just code for, please stop noticing that this is a scam.
So to protect ourselves from that, Wheal gives us a set of safety goggles.
Yeah.
The ethical coal box, a triad of critical thinking tools.
First up is a modified version of Pascal's wager.
From the French mathematician Blaise Pascal. How does that apply here?
It's about looking at the stakes. If a belief system you're considering has even a small chance of an infinite loss, like, say, losing your sanity, your life savings, or blowing up the planet, you should probably play it safe. Don't bet the farm on a guru's unproven claims.
Makes sense. Second tool.
Occam's razor.
The simplest explanation is usually the correct one.
Right. If you do some breath work and have a profound, life-changing vision, your first conclusion shouldn't be, I'm the chosen one, and aliens are contacting me through my third eye. The simpler explanation is probably, I changed my blood chemistry and my brain produced a fascinating hallucination. Start there. Keep your feet on the ground.
And the third tool is Bayes' theorem.
Which is really just a fancy way of saying, update your beliefs based on new evidence. Don't get locked into certainty. Be provisionally uncertain.
So instead of saying, I know the absolute truth, you say, based on the information I have right now, this seems to be the most likely explanation, but I'm open to being wrong.
Exactly. Which all gets summed up beautifully by the Carl Sagan quote, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Keep your heart wide open to new experiences, but keep your BS detector fully charged and operational.
I love that. He also gives us the 10 suggestions, not commandments, just suggestions for building a healthy life and culture.
Yeah.
I want to highlight a few that really stood out to me. Number 1, do the obvious.
This one is so important and so anti-biohacker culture. Before you spend a fortune on nootropics or an infrared sauna or a hyperbaric oxygen chamber,
Are you sleeping 8 hours a night?
are you eating actual food that grew in the ground? Are you moving your body? Are you hugging people you love? If you haven't mastered the basics, all the fancy advanced stuff is just a distraction.
So true. Number 6 also hit me. Do the hard thing.
Yeah.
Or eat the frog.
Yes, because flow states feel so effortless and blissful, people can fall into this trap of thinking that life should always be easy. They become bliss junkies.
But real growth, real flow, comes from facing a challenge that's right at the edge of your ability. It comes from friction.
It's the Stoic approach. The obstacle's the way. You have to lift the heavy thing to get stronger.
And finally, number 9, practice resurrection.
Die and become. This ties everything together. The breathing, the trauma work. It's about being willing to let your old self die every single day.
Your ego, your story about how you're a victim, your attachment to being right.
You let that die, you let it go, so that a new, more integrated version of you can be born. And it's not a one-time event. It's a daily practice.
This feels like a perfect transition to the conclusion of the book, which I found so inspiring. He talks about this big historical shift from priests to Prometheans.
This is where he pulls the whole argument together. He looks back at the very beginning of Christianity, at the conflict between the mainstream church, represented by St. Paul, and the mystical groups known as the Gnostics.
So the church, which became Meaning 1.0, wanted structure. They wanted order, rules, and priests who acted as the gatekeepers to God.
They wanted to control the supply of salvation. They told you, we had the revelation, and we will tell you what it means.
But the Gnostics, they wanted something different.
The Gnostics wanted direct experience. They didn't want to be told about the fire. They wanted to touch the fire themselves. They believed that God wasn't a king in the sky, but a spark of divine light within every person.
And for about 2,000 years, the gatekeepers won. They declared the Gnostics heretics and burned their books.
They won. But now the gates are breaking down.
How so?
The internet, the psychedelic renaissance, the global spread of practices like yoga and breath work, the codes for accessing these experiences are open source now. We don't need a priest to give us permission anymore. We can become our own Prometheans and steal the fire for ourselves.
We're democratizing the rapture.
We are.
But, and this feels like the final, most crucial point of the whole book, what do we do after we touch the fire? What's the point? Because if we just use these tools to get high on our own supply and feel good, are we just falling into a trap of spiritual narcissism?
100%. That is the ultimate trap. And that is why Wheal ends the entire book with the Zen parable of the ox herding pictures.
Right. This is a famous series of 10 images in Zen Buddhism.
It is. It shows the journey of a seeker looking for a lost ox, which represents their true nature or enlightenment. The seeker sees the tracks, finds the ox, tames the ox, and eventually rides the ox home.
And panel 8 is just an empty circle.
The empty circle, the void, nirvana, complete transcendence of self, and most people think that's the end of the journey.
I did it. I'm enlightened. Game over. I win.
But there are 2 more panels. Panel 9 is Return to the Source, which shows the beauty of the natural world. But panel 10 is the most important one.
What does it show?
It shows the enlightened person returning to the village, to the noisy, messy marketplace, and the caption is, "Entering the marketplace with helping hands, he's depicted as fat and jolly and carrying a sack of gifts for everyone."
You don't get to stay on the mountaintop, blissed out.
You don't. Staying on the mountain is a finite game. I got mine. Good luck to the rest of you. The infinite game is coming back down into the broken, beautiful world, the world of politics and climate change and your annoying neighbors, and bringing that peace, that insight, that resilience back with you to help out.
That's the recapture part of the title. We recapture the rapture with a lowercase r, that personal experience of awe and aliveness.
Well, that we can help prevent the rapture with a capital R, the end of the world.
You fill your own cup so you have something to pour for others. You heal your own trauma so you stop projecting it all over everyone else.
That is the whole point.
Wow. So we have gone from the crushing anxiety of the daily doom scroll through the escape fantasies of Mars colonies and doomsday bunkers, down into the very biology of our own breath and bodies, and landed here with the responsibility to come back down the mountain and help.
It puts the ball right back in our court.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate "we are the adults in the room now" message.
No one is coming to save us. Jesus is not descending to spear the anti-Messiah. Elon Musk is not taking 8 billion of us to Mars. The politicians are not going to solve the meaning crisis. It is just us, here, together, on this rock.
So let's wrap this up with a question for you listening right now. Based on everything we've just talked about, if the good ship Lollipop has sailed without you, and you're stuck here on Earth with the rest of us, what is the first obvious thing you are going to do today to make this place just a little more livable?
Maybe it's just taking 10 deep breaths to reset your CO2 tolerance. Maybe it's calling a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe it's just eating a real vegetable and going to bed on time. Whatever it is, however small it seems, practice resurrection.
Dive into the sources, start your own alchemist's cookbook, and do not let the doom scroll win. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.